some instinct.
Jedi.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Always a pleasure to meet you.
And my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
You failed your Highness. I am a Jedi.
All right, folks, welcome to a live edition. I have been forced to tell this joke. So I apologize in advance to everyone who ends up listening to this. But did you know that all the Sith hide in the shadows, shrouded in mystery? Unless you count Dooku.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I didn't
Mike,
make these up, folks. I didn't make these up.
why did we force him to do this, Mike?
That was great. I don't know what you're talking about.
Brilliant. Hello, explorers. Welcome. I'm Jack. I'm back. Welcome to episode 113, live. What could possibly go wrong? However, as always, thank you very much for joining us. And if you like what you hear, please leave us a rating on your podcast provider of choice. And like I've mentioned, we're live. So if you're watching live, please like, share, and subscribe via YouTube.
Yes, and welcome back if this is your first time with us. I'm Jimmy, and we are blessed to be joined by a man who was just off it. He came back from vacation just for us, I think.
Yeah.
So we're so excited to have you. Get you started before you jump back into things next week. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. And yes, I ran home as soon as possible, as soon as I got back from my vacation, just for this live stream. But yeah, thanks again for having me.
Awesome. Right. This week, we're going to start off with a bit of a question because the quiz is coming back. Again, for those that are watching live, feel free to drop the answer in the chat. Mike, you probably know the answer. So this week's question then is, what is the name of Ahsoka's home planet? Like I said, drop it in the comments, have a little think, and we'll be reading out who got it right next week here on the podcast. Now, as always, me and Jimmy are going to dive into this week's Force Encounters, but I am super intrigued onto Mike's Force Encounters.
For my ally is the Force.
Encounters. So this week,
Nope.
this week for Star Wars Force Encounters, I've been down to my local shop. It's a TCG shop. Now I'm in Canada. Long story short, they've got loads of vintage Star Wars goodness down there. So we've been spreading the love of Explore the Force. So I get some more Canadian listeners and viewers, hopefully. And yeah, that's been my Star Wars encounter this week. What about you, Jimmy? Have you got anything?
Yeah, just got done recording a breakdown of Trials of the Jedi, the last book in the High Republic series, with Marie from So Much Life and with Johnny Olafs at Starboard Files. So that was super exciting. It's always good to talk about those. And then we're getting plans for a big council meeting on the High Republic. So that, and then getting ready for some stuff with Mike or the other Mike, the mailman, I guess I should say, on Tuesday night, because we're going to start our deep dive into the prequels. And then we realize that we'll do one each week. And then on the fourth week it'll be the 1 year anniversary of Jedi and the Mailman, which sounds crazy.
Nice.
I had no idea that we've been doing that live show for that long. So yeah, lots of good, fun Star Wars stuff. And then of course we get joined by a man who loves Star Wars. So that's pretty awesome as well. What can go wrong?
All right. For mine then, it's really hard because I was on vacation for the whole week. I do wear a Star Wars shirt pretty much exclusively everywhere I go. So usually I'll get an encounter of somebody being like, "Oh, nice shirt," or "Did you watch whatever?" But I did have a very long discussion with one of my cousins over the break of we just talked Star Wars for like hours. And granted, he hasn't seen everything, but still, it was fantastic. So any time to talk Star Wars for hours on end, that's why I do it for a living.
So you can make a living out of it, Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you go on your vacation, did you try to, like, I mean, we talked a little off air, like you're checking your phone and stuff, but like, were you like
Yeah, yeah.
trying to give? Because like I know my wife and Jack's wife, we call them Star Wars widows. And
Yeah.
so, so when we go on vacation, we try to limit what exactly we're doing. So, were you trying to like, pull back a little bit? I mean, you could be chomping at the bit for Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully there wasn't anything groundbreaking that happened over my break, which was nice. But there was some things that I was like, okay, I kind of want to talk about that. So it was like I'll have to wait a whole week to talk about this. But still, yeah, you kind of got to take a step back to enjoy vacation a little bit.
Yeah.
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 So if people don't know, Mike goes live Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Oh yeah.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, what time on the East Coast you go?
All three are 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay,
Yeah.
all three of them are that. And then if you're a member like I am, right, give Mike some of your hard-earned money. Sometimes we get like you did Andor,
Yeah. Watch
leading up to Andor
parties.
2. Yeah, we did the watch parties and some stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. And again, if you haven't checked Mike out, you need to, especially in the world that we're living in today with all the negativity. I love it when I'm watching your show and someone comes into the chat and tries to be a negative Nelly or tries to be a jerk, and then you don't even have to say anything to them. Like your group, we all kind of jump on that person, and then you're like, and then Mike's always like, this show is called A Guy Who Loves Star Wars. What did you think you were going to get here? So that's always kind of like my favorite thing of some dum dum that kind of slips into your stream.
Yeah, it is. It is something else. Like, not that I did it on purpose, but the name is A Guy Who Loves Star Wars, and it's just so crazy to me when somebody clicks on that and then just starts bashing on everybody in the chat or bashing on me. Even I don't really care. I can take it, but it just doesn't add up. I'm like, what went wrong here? Why'd you click on this in the first place? Like, what happened?
Awesome. Brilliant. Now you said obviously you've had a week wait out Star Wars, and we have had a little bit of news coming in. I know we've got some huge news, haven't we, Jimmy?
Yeah.
People in this crowd will soon be among almost 40,000.
For those who are among the 900 with news media or promotional tickets, the sneak preview probably will be the only chance to see The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So diving into the news, we've heard, I don't know, was it this week or last week that we found out there was going to be no Marvel, no DC, no one's going to San Diego Comic-Con, right? And I was kind of like, whoa, that's like, I mean, Hall H, I mean, that's that's huge. And then there's going to be, I mean, I'm kind of curious as to what they'll have. Now we just found out that George Lucas, Guillermo del Toro, Doug Chang are going to be doing a panel, which is nuts. I mean, that's crazy. Yes. And basically they're going to be talking about the power of illustrated story and they're going to offer a sneak peek to Lucas's Museum of Narrative Art. So that's really exciting. Lucas's museum is dedicated to the illustrated storytelling across time and cultures. I'm not going to read all these people's names, but there is a ton of stuff. I can't wait for Celebration because I'm going to make that part of my trip in 27. But this is going to be like nothing I think anyone's ever seen before. And the fact that he's coming in, having this conversation, smart, I think. How do you guys feel? Like, we just get this terrible news that, in my mind, it was kind of terrible that, I mean, I love getting those little bits, even Marvel and stuff like that. I love hearing what's coming down, and then we're not getting anything. But now we're going to get the maker himself. So you guys excited for that? What did you think about when you heard the news?
Go for it, Mike.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime we get a George Lucas sighting in the wild is pretty great. I'm sure a bunch of good stuff will come out of that. He'll be asked, I'm sure, a ton of Star Wars questions. But the museum itself has been under construction for so long that, like, anybody who's a George Lucas fan or a Star Wars fan or just an ILM fan or anything like that is pumped to like you said, maybe when you go to Star Wars Celebration, go and check it out when you're over there. But I think it's just going to be awesome. I certainly hope, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there hasn't been anything about Star Wars because DC and Marvel have been like, we're not going. But Star Wars hasn't really done anything yet. So maybe we're setting the stage for a Mando teaser trailer, which would be nice. But I mean, a man can dream. So I'm very excited. George Lucas, anytime we get to see him is a great day.
Yeah, totally agree. The museum sounds amazing. It's definitely going to be on my bucket list as well for Celebration. Just seeing all the models, props, concept art, everything like that. It's I think it's any Star Wars fan's dream, isn't it?
Well, I think anyone who loves movies and storytelling, like it's not just going to
Yeah.
be. I mean, I can't even really wrap my head around what it's going to be until I get there. I think. I mean, it looks amazing. I mean, just the structure itself is phenomenal,
Yeah.
and then just the history of cinema and storytelling that are going to be part of that. I mean, you might need a week just to get through it. I don't know.
Yeah, because when people think George Lucas, they really just think of Star Wars for the most part, but he's done so many other things, like not just other films, like helping out on Indiana Jones and stuff and making all these other movies, but
Mm.
he's the reason we have all these CGI movies now or green
Yep.
screen or whatever you want to call it. Like he's the guy who did all that stuff. Like there's so much in the behind the scenes stuff of George Lucas that he created that really doesn't get talked about enough, I guess. And I think this museum will shine a light on it, hopefully.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
exciting. It'll be
Yeah.
exciting. I think that, um, you know, definitely making a part of my trip going to Celebration, you know, because I don't how often I'll get out there, but yeah, I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, we've got Steve in the chat. Live streams are back this week. Like Mike's already mentioned, they've been missed. I've missed them.
Me too. Me too, Steve. Me too.
Brandon Tran's coming as well. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining. Awesome. Yeah, next bit of news that we've got is Andor is still going strong. No surprise.
Well,
Loads of releases on the way. I'm a bit surprised that one of the releases is a art book that's released. Schedule is for May 2026. It seems a bit far away. But since then, there's been a whole host of behind the scenes footage, Easter eggs, and I absolutely love finding little Easter eggs. Andor is just absolutely full of them. Absolutely full of them. What's your take on these, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think Disney underestimated the amount of hype that people had for Andor because it only ran for 4 weeks, and we'll of course talk about the release schedule stuff. But if it wasn't that way, I'm no mathematician, but I think we'd still be watching Andor right now.
Yeah.
It'd be close. It'd be close. But we'd be probably close to the end here. But we'd still be watching week to week Andor. Since it ended, we've been getting so many interviews with the cast. And like you said, Jack, behind the scenes stuff. Like we've been getting a ton of Andor stuff. The visual stuff, visual dictionary, whatever it is called, comes out a year after. They did the same thing with the Acolytes. That visual dictionary
That's just come out. Yeah.
Yeah. So although Andor is over, and we're going to talk Rogue One today, its presence in the Star Wars community is going to be felt for a very long time. I mean, people say it's one of the best projects of all time. Some argue it's their favorite Star Wars project ever. Like the hype is insane for this project. So even though it is the final season, it will be an everlasting presence in the Star Wars community, much like all that came before it.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more so, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know like last week I think Charlie and I talked about that mall spider head thing that was in there.
Yes.
Just little things like that where I think that's going to be the gift that keeps on giving because we're just going to keep finding things and then one person who will find it and share it and then it'll get out there. I'm excited to see all the stuff. And it's kind of funny because, Tony is famously, I don't care about Star Wars, but the people working with him really cared about Star Wars. And I mean, they plug all that stuff in and I'm excited to see how that stuff slowly matriculates into our culture and the things that we find out. But so.
No, absolutely. And because Lucasfilm is making these projects, even though Tony Gilroy is the man, whenever we talk about Andor, we talk Tony Gilroy. There's so many other writers, so many other directors, and so many, like countless people working on the backgrounds, all the special effects, all that stuff that throw in those little Easter eggs, like Darth Maul's head on a spider, which is awesome. But you even have way bigger stuff like the Gorman mentions. The first two canon, sorry, not Gorman, Ricotta. My brain is still coming back from vacation.
He's telling
Ricotta
me somewhere, folks.
Exactly. I'm still. Is this a dream? No. The first two ever canon mentions of the Rakatan Empire come from Andor. Like we say that Tony Gilroy doesn't know Star Wars, but clearly somebody back there does. So yeah, there's really cool stuff like that, and who knows? Maybe there's some more stuff that we missed too.
Oh, I
There'll be a
I
whole
feel like
host of
it's just
stuff.
going to like especially after that book comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
that's why this show's so good because, like Mike mentioned, this is going to live on in the annuals forever, and there's probably 10 years from now, we'll probably find something brand new that we didn't see at the time or now.
Yeah,
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
absolutely.
Brandon says, "Is anyone going to San Diego Comic Con this month since George Lucas?"
We just
I
talked about
mean, that's the problem. Is San Diego Comic Con is really hard to get into. Like you had to get your tickets last year. Like you had to get into a
Yeah.
lottery, and then because I looked into it for my 50th, and I was like, nah, it seems like too much trouble. I'll just go to Celebration.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's difficult, but yeah, it'd be pretty cool to get into it.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
be way more bummed if you got those tickets like a year ago and then they were like, "Yeah, there's not going to be no Marvel panel or DC panel," and you're like, "Wait, what? That's what I came here for."
Yeah, no
yeah.
kidding.
It's usually the big one, isn't it? The big
Yeah,
Comic Con with all the reveals and everything. So
I mean, it
yeah,
has been the Comic Con. I mean, you think
yeah,
Comic Con, you think San Diego Comic Con, and then, yeah, for that to kind of be dwindling, I think I still feel like something's going on behind the scenes. Someone's mad at somebody. We got D23 as well, though. Like, I mean, everyone's trying to make their own cash, and
yeah,
you don't want to give stuff up if you're doing it at D23 because they got Marvel, they got Avatar, I mean, they got so much stuff that they could drop, and it just, but there's part of that tradition and culture. I don't know. It's kind of a bummer.
yeah. I honestly think from a Marvel and DC standpoint, and I just watched Superman this morning
Oh,
actually.
so good, right?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah,
Which I was very happy about. I was sort of hesitant going in, didn't really know because we've had a bajillion Supermans. I was very pleased. Um, but when you look at the future of Marvel and DC in particular, they kind of know what they're doing, kind of not. Like we just got the announcement that Avengers Doomsday has been delayed 6 months.
hmm
Uh, the next DC movie's not till next summer, and it's Supergirl. So they got these sort of weird things going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing, and that's probably why there's going to be no Hall H panel. Last year we got Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom, so that's like still a huge
yeah,
blockbuster thing that happened at San
yeah,
Diego Comic Con. I just think they didn't have anything this year. Like they literally just had nothing. So they were
yeah,
like, we can't do this.
yeah.
yeah.
No, I get it. I mean, it's kind of in Japan, it was kind of that way because usually there's so much of that Lucasfilm, the first day, and it was not underwhelming, but it was not, I don't think, at the level. But I think you're right, though. I think they're kind of gearing
Yeah.
up for stuff, and yeah, that can make sense. What does Steve Jedi says? I really love all the news about Jude Law hopefully coming back and the kids from Skeleton Crew. We need more at and with the new map. Yeah, that new map has really kind of got people fired up.
It's really
Um,
cool.
Connections with Ahsoka probably
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Thrawn. I know you talked about that, Mike. We've had I always want to call them by their screen names, but we've had Kiriana who plays KB, and we just had Ravi who plays Wim
Yeah.
on the show. And these kids are phenomenal young people, and you should check those out. But yeah, they can't really tell us anything, but their enthusiasm and excitement whenever we talk about a season 2 or we try to poke at them a little bit, being
Yeah.
respectful, but they're like, hell yeah, let's go. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens there. That's pretty cool.
Well, Skeleton Crew to me, it went very under the radar. Like it was really, really good,
So
and it
underrated.
wasn't really the top. Yeah, it was. It was so underrated. It wasn't the topic of conversation. Once it ended, it was like, okay, Andor season 2 time. Like we didn't really spend time like going. This was really, really, really good. Now the views weren't really there, but that's because it's a brand new story that's not connected to any legacy characters.
Yeah.
But it's really, really good, and it definitely deserves a second season. And I think we'll see a lot more of those characters, even if they don't get a second season, because they'll be in other projects here and there and everywhere. So I completely agree. Skeleton Crew deserves a second season, definitely, but it's so unbelievably underrated.
Oh yeah, I think that. I mean, they even say that they have a was it they were just interviewed Watts, I believe, and he said that they have a plan for like a
Yeah.
eight,
Yeah,
and they have it aged out so we don't get Stranger Thing, we don't get 25-year-olds playing 12-year-olds.
yeah,
So they have a plan. They thought about it. Makes me think that it'll happen eventually. But I mean, they're going to be in trouble because these kids are getting really popular. I mean, I can't think of her name. She's the new Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean,
yep,
once that starts,
She'll be busy.
kids, and I
yeah,
know like Wim or Ravi. I mean, he was getting ready to go film
Oh,
something in July. So these kids have been. It'll be hard to get them all back together, I think.
yeah.
yeah. True.
So Says, I wonder what George Lucas thinks about all Disney Star Wars shows like Skeleton Crew, Ahsoka, Bad Batch, and Andor. I don't know. It would be curious because that to know just to be a fly on that wall of him and like Dave talking or something.
Yeah. I do think a lot of the stuff with like the sequels sort of probably rubbed him the wrong way because he gave his sequel treatment and they were
Yeah.
like, "No, we're gonna do something else." So that I mean, if that was me, I'd be like, "Okay, well, thanks a lot." But
Yeah.
I think a lot of the shows, especially Ahsoka and the ones he listed, like Andor and Skeleton Crew, like those I'm sure he loves a lot. Like the Bad Batch is such an extension of the Clone Wars, and Ahsoka and Rebels are all just they really feel like the George stuff.
Mhm.
So I think I mean it's Dave Filoni too, so it's his
Yeah.
own apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to like love Skeleton. I mean, that's like that whole '80s thing,
Yeah.
Just
He'd love
so
that.
had to, I think. Well, maybe we'll find out. Maybe he'll, he will, like you said, Mike earlier, he will be interviewed to death leading
Oh
up
yeah.
to San Diego Comic Con, and people probably try to ask him questions at the wrong time, and that'll go well. We do have one more piece of news, and this one's kind of interesting. Did Ryan Johnson take a dig at JJ? Speaking to Rolling Stone while promoting the second season of Poker Face, after some chat, he was asked questions if he harbored any ill will towards director J.J. Abrams and the choices he made picking up the reins for episode 9. His reply was, I didn't feel resentful in some way. In my perspective, J.J. did the same thing with the third that I did with the second, which is not digging it up and undoing, just telling this story the way that was most compelling going forward. That means not just validating what came before it, but recontextualizing it and evolving and changing as the story moves forward. Um,
Interesting.
is he taking a shot there? That one part there where it says, it means not just validating, because I mean, JJ kind of, I mean, just with the lightsaber alone, I mean, that
Yeah.
was
The
so.
the back and forth between those movies is very evident. I mean, there's clearly two different creators trying to make a story. But yeah, J.J. Abrams does the exact same thing that Ryan Johnson does with The Last Jedi, where he throws it over the shoulder, he kills Snoke off, and does all these crazy things, which some people really like because they are so crazy. But then J.J. comes back around and almost reverses a couple things and changes a
Mm.
bunch of things, and it's brings back Palpatine. It's a lot. There's definitely two minds at work when you watch the sequel trilogy. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And these guys, they have to have. You don't get where you're at by not believing in yourself and having some self. They've got to have an ego. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
think about the stuff that they've done, and just content creators get mad at each other, and we don't really do anything compared to what these people do. And
Yeah.
it's like you can just imagine he's probably like fuming, and he's slowly taking his shots or whatever. I do think, like, we've said it on the show a million times. Like, I don't like the Last Jedi in that trilogy, but you take it out of there, like I still want Ryan to have his trilogy. I think it would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful movie. For me personally, it just doesn't fit the other two, like the two bookends.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on, it just doesn't feel like it fit and didn't, work for me
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
Like I think it's good and stuff like that. But yeah, it just shows you what a mess and how eager they were to make money, I think.
Rushing it.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about the High Republic a little bit. I mean, 26 books that all flow and interconnect, and there's a story here and a story there. There's a character that does something here, and like over a 4-year period, they worked this all out. I mean, they're very capable
Yeah.
Yeah.
of doing this. I think hopefully they've learned. I think they have.
Oh, absolutely. You look at all the TV stuff and the High Republic stuff, it's clear that a lot of things are a lot more interconnected now and looking towards the future too. Like you
Mm.
mentioned, even
Mm.
the High Republic's end still leaving it open ended without giving anything away. It leaves it open ended for more stories to be told and connections to other things and all this stuff that's being set up hundreds of years before that could pay off all the way down the line, possibly in a post sequel world. Like
Yeah.
that's how interconnected Star Wars is right now.
Mhm.
And that map, which somebody brought up in the chat, coming out almost at the perfect time for all these things to interconnect because you see how close certain planets are when these
Mm.
stories are coming up. It's really, really cool. So I honestly hope that they keep doing stuff like that. Like the map is such a cool thing that they just dropped out of nowhere. Like we didn't know
Yeah.
that was coming.
Mhm.
So hopefully we get some more cool stuff like that.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. I don't want every story to touch the other story. Like there needs to be
Yeah.
some. The universe is too big, but
Yeah.
it is fun. Like you love those connections, and that's what That's Marvel's made. You know, that's their jam right there. Is
Yeah.
just building on these stories. And I do see it in reverse. Like I feel like they're kind of going back now, and they're kind of fixing those mistakes where they're like they're inserting things like in video games with the High Republic, or then a Force versions in a book, or just these different things that are trying to make it. They're trying to solidify it a little bit more,
Yeah.
learn from their
Yeah.
past mistakes, and then drive. Because there's a lot of stakes with the Ray film coming out. Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Star Wars
if
is
that movie bombs and like it's legitimately not good, like people like us who will find the good in something. If we don't like it, Star Wars could be in a little bit of trouble. I
I was
think.
about to say, mate, Star Wars is very fragile. I think.
Oh yeah.
Personally, it's
Absolutely.
like walking on cracked glass. I think at the minute, with all the fans like us underneath holding the glass.
Yeah. Yeah. But like Jimmy just mentioned, I mean, not everything's going to be interconnected, but the sequel trilogy itself, as many people have very differing opinions on it,
Mm.
can be fixed, for lack of a better word, with other projects that came before it or after it. If the Rey movie is unbelievable, like it's really, really good, and people start to like the character of Rey specifically more, maybe Finn's involved and Poe's involved, whatever, that immediately makes you like the character more. So when you go
Yeah.
back and watch the sequel trilogy, you're going to like those characters more. But even still, the questions like somehow Palpatine returned and why Luke's on Ahch-To, like that, some of that stuff is being hinted at every once in a while. You got Project Necromancer in the Bad Batch, you got Project Necromancer in the Mandalorian, like this a lead up here. And I think, again, fix is a horrible word because some people don't think there's anything wrong with it, but
Well,
there's
filling
ways
the
to
gaps.
filling the holes, filling the gaps. There's ways to do that, and I think they have been doing that at
Yeah. With
in a
the
very good
comics.
way. Comics too, and books too. I always bring up the book Shadow of the Sith. Have you guys read that one?
Yep,
With
yep.
the older Luke, older Lando looking for his kid, and Rey and the parents and stuff. Like that alone, that one book made me like Rise of Skywalker like 1,000 times more. Because it explains the Ochi of Bastoon dagger, it explains Rey's parents, it explains all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's so cool. So now when I watch Rise of Skywalker, it's a completely different movie because I'm like, I know where that comes from. I know where that goes from. So it's already better. So I certainly hope that they can continue down that route.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think they've learned a lot. I think that, trying to get a return on their investment. I think there's pressures outside of just, we fans, we think we're like, oh, we're the important people. They don't care. They care about those investors and,
Yeah.
getting us there. And I know they needed to get a quick return on, what was it, $4 billion purchase they made. So, but pretty excited for that. We'll see what happens. Again, I didn't like The Last Jedi that much as part of that trilogy, but I do feel that Ryan could probably make an awesome trilogy
Yeah, I think so.
if it's I mean he's done it. He's some great movies out there. So,
Yeah.
but you guys ready to talk about the main show?
Oh yes.
All right. So we today, and this is a topic. This is one of the reasons we wanted to bring Mike on. We wanted somebody that Mike, you probably talked more about Andor more than a lot of content because you're on 3 times a week. You talk a lot about this. You cover all the news and things like that. And this is a journey that's from 2016 until 2025 that we're talking about. So we're gonna kind of start with Rogue One. We're gonna kind of talk our way through it, and then we'll come back around to it after we get through Andor. But think back December 2016. Director Gareth Edwards. The movie is written by Chris Weitz and Tony Gilroy comes in for that, starring Felicity Jones and Diego Luna. And Rogue One hits the theaters. And I don't think anybody was prepared for what this was going to do to Star Wars. Can you guys remember how you felt? And I know I'm pretty positive that we're all big fans of it, but can you remember like what your thoughts were, how you feel about the movie? Because we're going to get to how do we feel about it now? Like that's kind of the journey we want to take today.
Yeah.
Is how does it change now that we have, 47 hours of Andor?
Yeah. Well, with Rogue One, it's a brand new cast of characters. And before seeing Andor, you have attachments to these characters, but not really. Like they all die by the end of the movie. So you're like, okay, I get to spend a couple hours with these guys, but they're just the messengers, which ironically, they're just the messengers. And they get the Death Star plans. They fill this sort of plot hole, I guess, in A New Hope. and they serve their purpose. So I don't really back in 2016, 17, 18, whatever, I didn't have a connection to Cassian. I didn't have really that big of a connection to Jyn Erso or anybody like that. And then 24 episodes later, something else happened. But I really didn't have that connection. So the movie was great. It was still great at the time. All those characters, though, I was like, okay, they're cool, but I'm not going to sit here and act like they're the next coming of Ahsoka or Anakin or Obi-Wan or anything like that. So great movie. It was in my top 5 even before Andor, but at the time, it was sort of like, okay, these characters don't really care. Cool lightsaber, cool hallway scene at the end, cool Leia showing up, Tarkin's back, like all that stuff's cool, but don't really care about those characters specifically.
All right. About you, Jack?
Yeah, no, fair point. So I went into Rogue One blind pretty much because I didn't really see any trailers or anything like that. Obviously, we hadn't had the podcast going. I was into Star Wars, but not as into Star Wars as I am now. And I didn't have any clue really. I knew what it was about, but where it was going to lead to. And sort of what Mike's saying with the characters, I totally get. And I think that what they did very, very well is to get people to care about those characters. So in some form, every single one of those characters, I'd probably say apart from Cassian, has got something wrong, whether they're blind, whether they've just come from the Empire, whether they've lost their family. So they're building the connections with the audience straight away. So they did a good job of making you care to a degree. But like Mike said, you by the end of the film, it's like, okay, not really missing them because we know what happens anyway. So, and I think that's where Andor does such a good job with Cassian as a prime example and the film.
Well, that's kind of the next thing. So, I think we all really enjoyed the movie. Like we said, it's high up in our rankings. I mean, I know some people it's their favorite Star Wars movie. And again, like we're not really super connected to these characters. But then we get the announcement that Cassian Andor, is going to get his own TV show. What responses, like, how are we feeling? Like, who? Like, you had to go back, maybe look who's Cassian Andor or something. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot that had happened. What were we thinking whenever we got this announcement that this, not a random character? I mean, I would say that, it's Felicity Jones and Diego Luna are the heart of that movie. But and this is something that I feel like changed. I don't want to give too much away, but like Rogue One is like Felicity Jones. It's Jyn Erso's story.
Yeah.
But then we're getting the side characters. I don't want to call him a side character, but you guys know what I mean. Like, how did you feel whenever you're like, wait, what?
Well, I mean, with the live action shows, when we got The Mandalorian, it was kind of like what? It was the first ever Star Wars show. We didn't know who the Mandalorian was going to be. He looked like Boba Fett, which was cool. But we didn't know much of anything. They left Grogu out of the marketing, so it was sort of the same reaction that I had with Andor. I was like, who cares? What is this? At the time, I think a lot of people wanted to see like and still do, I guess now, but like a Vader show or something, more of a prevalent character in the Star Wars timeline. And then we get Andor, and we're like, okay, cool. I believe it came around the same time we got the announcements of like Ahsoka and probably Kenobi. And so those ones are like, yes! And then you're like, Andor, cool, sure, go away. We'll talk about you another time. So it came in way under the radar for me because, like you said, maybe I can't remember, but maybe I didn't even remember who Andor was at the time. I was like, who's searching on Google, who's Andor? So it was coming out around Titans, like Kenobi, and at the time, The Mandalorian was enormous. So it was really just like, who cares, to me at least, at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to think. I was like, this is kind of random, but all right. But I always hated those fans like, we don't need a solo story. We don't need this. I'm like, well, we don't need any of it technically.
Yeah,
like,
you don't need it.
What
we'll
we
take
want.
it.
Yeah, but we'll take it. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, let's go more Star Wars. So how about you, Jack? Where were you at? Because I don't even know if we knew each other yet. Like we may have been chatting on that Discord, but I'm not sure we even knew each other yet.
No. Again, just like Mike, like, so what? It's just another side story, and exactly that as well. Where we don't need it, but I'll take it. I'll watch it. and it's the same sort of feelings I had when I was watching the first couple of episodes as well. I was still a bit like, okay, it's a bit slow. I'll
Yeah.
keep watching it though. It's Star Wars, and then yeah, just like life, bam, it just hits you.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, so let's talk about the season one then. So
Yep.
it sounds like most of us didn't. We don't really have expectations for this. We're not really sure where it's going. We didn't get a lot. I don't feel like we got as much. Like we knew, like Andor season two, we knew. All right, every 3 episodes, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and
Yeah.
it was a lot more hype surrounding it, I think, than season one. How did we feel about season one? I mean, you talked about these juggernaut shows that were coming out, Kenobi and Ahsoka, and stuff like that. How did we feel? And that's also, we can throw in there as well the release schedule, because I do think it plays a big
Huge.
part in both series. Because for me, I hated the way season two came out, but I loved it at the same time. If I
Yeah.
wasn't creating content,
Yeah.
I would have. I mean, there would have been no doubt. I'm loving it. I'm in it. Um, but then trying to break down, a full movie every week was. I mean, we were a mess over
Brutal.
here. And we had, with multiple people that run through us. So yeah, I just kind of. I don't know. It was all over the map with it. But how did we feel about season one? And then, of course, after that, the potential going into for season two.
Well, I remember season one, especially watching the trailers for season one. Other than Cassian, you don't know who any of the characters are. Like they're all brand new characters. You don't know who Marva is, Luthen is, Bix is, Cyril is, like none of them. So the trailers don't give you much, except for maybe a few cool action sequences. But I remember watching the first 3 episodes, and sort of like Jack was saying, I was like, this is slow. This is slow. It's good, but it's very slow. And hoping it's going to pick up. And obviously, having seen first seasons of other shows before, I'm like, okay, this is probably just laying the groundwork type thing.
Mm.
But I remember the first premiere was all 3 first episodes
Yeah.
because they knew that that was going to work. And honestly, they probably were seeing to the future where this is going to work a lot better for season two, too. But the first 3 episodes drop, and I'm like, okay, really, really slow but good start. We'll see where it goes from there. And like you talked about with the release schedule, we got week to week, a couple double up episodes, I remember.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple double up episodes. But it was so like Lucasfilm again didn't know what they had on their hands with Andor that they put out Tales of the Jedi right in the middle of the season. So I think it was one of the best episodes too. I think it was One Way Out.
Oh my.
It
Yeah.
might have been either that or the episode before it. It was around that time in the season because people were like, okay, this is really slow. It's getting a little bit better, but we want, and then they gave us Tales of the Jedi for people who, because it has no lightsabers, it has no force, and people who want that can get this.
Yeah.
But there was an argument online at the time that this episode of Andor, which sounds crazy or sounded crazy at the time, could have been better than Tales of the Jedi. And Tales of the Jedi was a freaking masterpiece. There's no doubt about that. But putting those out at the same time just shows that Lucasfilm didn't even know what they had on their hands when it came to Andor. And the release schedule thing was very, very strange.
Yeah.
Season one to me was really, really good. Immediately, so many people were putting it as the best Star Wars show ever. I did not have it there. I probably had it top 2 or 3. But once season 2 came around, things changed. But when season 1 came out, I remember so many people, it was like just a war zone because people were going at Andor, and some people were like, this is the greatest thing that I've ever seen with my 2 eyeballs. So I just remember it being very chaotic, especially with the release date in Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars fandom as divided as ever, pretty much.
Yeah. The release schedule, how they did it, I think worked really well in terms of doing like 3 episodes for an arc.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of alludes to what we were saying about Rogue One. So I think the path that they wanted to have, or the vision, if you like, because we knew obviously Andor was the lead up, the build up to Rogue One, and we know Tony Gilroy is an absolute genius. So I think what they wanted to do with the movie was we've got Jyn Erso's character, but now with Andor, we've got Cassian. Instead of just having that one person's route through the movie, now we've got 2 people that go in different directions, but then meeting again.
Yeah.
So it's absolute genius from the start. But yeah, there was lots of different highlights for me. in season 1, it was a slow burner. I was definitely on that latter bracket of saying it is a masterpiece. Give it time. And I remember when the Prisoner Narkina 5 scene came out and the cosplay stuff for it, and it took off. It
Oh, yeah.
absolutely exploded. I did both the Prisoner runs at London Celebration, Japan Celebration, and they are just getting bigger and bigger. And it's little things like that, again, will make these sort of things last forever.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Oh, for sure.
they're just huge. And yeah, in terms of the release schedule for season 2, it's like Steve's saying in the comments. I'll just read this out quickly. He said it's mixed emotions at first, the release schedule, but then I love the release schedule for season 2. It's like watching a Star Wars movie each week, having a new movie each week. Totally agree. That's how it felt for me. It was a Star Wars movie every single week. I think they learned some of the lessons and looked at some of the feedback, what people were saying, how it was quite slow. But yeah, I think in terms of release schedule wise, I think season 2 worked perfectly. It was a nightmare for, like you say, Jim, for yourself. For me in the UK at like 2 in the morning as well. I tried to stay up, didn't I, for the last
Yeah,
part
you
to come on
did. You
alive,
couldn't
and
make it.
I got to the last episode and I piled in. I just went to sleep. But yeah, in terms of release schedule, I think it worked for both seasons, if I'm honest. But I'm a little unsure as to why. Not that it felt rushed, because it was supposed to be, what was it, 5 seasons originally?
Originally,
Yeah.
I think 5 seasons. Yeah,
So,
but
I think they did enough.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My thought was like, it's kind of twofold though, because like you said, Mike, like we might be on here talking about the finale just now
Yeah.
and still be in social media, in the algorithms and all this stuff, whereas you got a month of it. And I know, I believe you talked about it on your show too. I know we talked about it, like,
Yeah.
what's the process? What are they thinking
Yeah.
here? Season 1, as an older gentleman, you can tell by the gray in the beard, I'm used to, every week you get a new story. It takes a break at Christmas time. Then you get 2 months or 3 months off during the summer. So like I've been trained from a childhood. And I think that streaming has kind of made people, and binging has kind of made people not appreciate the storytelling. So like and I do agree that I do think that they were real slow. I wouldn't say boring, but I would say slow.
Yeah.
But like it's just like this slow grind and this storytelling and these things that are happening. And if you could, but that doesn't get clicks, right? You don't get the clicks by saying, well, this is really great storytelling. You're like, oh, this is boring and this sucks. And people are like, oh, I want to click on to see what this guy has to say.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But why do you think the shift is just because of that, or do you think it's because of numbers? I mean, the problem with this is after the writer strike, I thought we were going to have more accurate numbers. Now again, we don't have a long enough period, and if you study history, you had to have a certain amount of time. You can't judge against Mandalorian because nobody was doing anything. We were a lockdown or whatever.
Yeah.
So you had to get far enough away from COVID streaming to really realize like what our actual numbers are going to look like in the real world. So why do we think that they did this?
I think, and it might have been on your show, Mike, when I was watching it. Either that, I dreamt it, or read it. But basically, it was
You dreaming about Mike?
somewhere. Yeah.
Me too.
Something somewhere. It was either on, like, say, your show or Reddit or whatever. It's like Ebenezer's curve. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but basically the human attention span. So if you're sat in a lesson, the first 20 minutes is key. That's when you've got the person. After that, people just tend to switch off or forget stuff. And I read it somewhere. It's the same with Disney shows or just TV in general. If now, because there's so much accessibility and it's so easy just to switch off and switch on to something else, if that program hasn't got your attention within 5 minutes, it's gone straight away. So I think a lot of it comes down to that sort of stuff.
I think you're absolutely right. When you think about, because the beginning of Andor was so slow, not that it wasn't good, it was just slow, that so many people just checked out. They didn't care.
Yeah.
And when you look at like the beginning of The Mandalorian season 1, the opening scene is him going into that bar and like beating people up. Like it's instantaneously got your attention, like you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you're absolutely right. And just Mando is cool in general because he's got the mystery of the mask and he looks like Boba Fett and stuff. So no, you're absolutely right. When it came to season 2 and that release date, though, I was like you guys, very skeptical about it. As a content creator, absolutely hated it. But all in all, it became like the most genius thing they could have done, because if you watch, especially the first 6 episodes of the season, I think the back half of the season could have worked as a weekly release. But if you look at the first 6,
Yeah.
if they came out one at a time, we'd be sitting through 6 weeks of people going, "This is so boring. This show's so slow. Nothing happened this week." Like the arcs themselves worked so perfectly. The first episode was like this huge setup. Second episode was like this in between connecting piece, and the third episode was all the payoff from the first 2 episodes. And without that, if that came out week to week to week, it would be a disaster.
Yeah.
So again, the back half of the season's a completely different story. But I think the 3-episode arc really worked well when I was very skeptical about it from the beginning. It really, really worked well. And even though it only lasted a month, I think that's still the way they should have done it. If they were doing it all over again, I'd still say do that. Maybe the last 4 or 5 episodes, you can go week to week. But even still, the 3-episode arcs worked just perfectly, especially with the first 6 episodes.
Yeah, and I know some other content creators as well. They got their own personal viewings, all 12 episodes in one go.
Yeah.
So whether it's down to that maybe as well.
Well, that's the most frustrating thing ever being a content creator is when other people get it way before you and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm already done with my work." And I'm like, "I'm up for the next 24 hours straight."
Yeah, we feel the pain. We feel the pain. Steve's got the sort of same comments as well. He's put it was a slow start, but then it got really good later on. Dedra played amazing. Cyril with his serial, especially Marquina 5, one way out, one way out. What about you, Jimmy? What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I as a Star Wars fan, I mean, you can't having a new movie every week for a month. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the dream, right? Because I always when we listen to a lot of people who talk about like fatigue of Star Wars and how it needs to slow down. I want more. Like I feel like Kylo Ren. I want more, right?
Yeah.
And if it's good, I want it. And I think that. But I also wonder too, like how many normal fans sat down for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever it was. Because I mean, some of those I know got a little bit shorter towards the end, but the action kind of like how many people were able to sit down and just watch all that. You know, if you got kids and things like that, I kind of wonder about how that affected. You know, like the mailman, he had to watch like one the night it came out, and then he'd watch, you know, kind of like a 3-day process.
Yeah.
Now Disney's still getting their numbers. But I just kind of wonder, you know, I wasn't going to miss it. I mean, this was an event every Tuesday night. I was sitting down ready to go. So, and I don't think that, you know, I wonder how much, you know, we are diehard Steelers fans. Sorry, Star Wars fans. Mike, you're from
NFL's
New
coming
England.
up.
I know you don't like the Steelers. So,
No,
yeah. So, you know, I wonder how, you know, and people on our feed and stuff like that. Like we're a very small group.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things.
Oh yeah.
I wonder how people like normal people, the normies,
Normies.
Yeah, no.
got through it.
Yeah, it is a lot of content just for 1 week. It's a full movie pretty much. I think a lot of people did just watch it like one after the other because you have a whole week to watch it, so you can just watch one episode now and then another one in a couple days and then another one a couple days after that. So it can be spaced out. Actually, the first week when I made breakdown videos, in my episode 1 breakdown video, I was like, and this pays off in episode 3 when this happens. And somebody was like, "Why would you spoil that for me?" I was like, honestly, you're right. That was my bad. I won't do that anymore. But yeah, so people just watch the episodes different times. It's not like they're all crazy like me and you guys who watch them all at the same time.
Yeah,
It's a very valid point, mate. It's the same with me. Luckily, I was in the army on my way, so I can finish work, go back, chill. If it was like now, for example, God, I would not have been able to watch anything the rate I'm going here. Like it's crazy. So I think that's a very, very good point, Jimmy. To be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just kind of wondered, you know, our circles of Star Wars fans, you know, we're not the normal. Like, most Star Wars fans don't go to Celebration or don't, you know, aren't reading all these, you know. So I kind of wonder outside of that how people watched it, but you know, it sounded like the numbers were pretty good for it. You know, I do think you guys are right though. Like they really did pay off. Season 2, I feel really built, especially towards the end. Some of those, I mean, rewatchability for, you know, those final episodes is insane. But and that kind of brings us back around. I don't know about you guys, but as soon as it finished, For some reason, I feel like we had like that Friday off or something, or not Friday, but we had something, and my wife was like, and she's not like a massive Star Wars, and she's like, we need to watch Rogue One now, and I was like, this is why I love you. So we sat down and we watched Rogue One, and that's what kind of shifted gears in my head because some things felt different this time.
Yeah.
And I've probably watched Rogue One, I don't know, at least 10 times, if not more, right? Just on the background, I'll have Star Wars
Yeah.
going or something like that. And my first question to you guys is, who's the hero of Rogue One now? Like, we have this, when we first sit down and you watch Rogue One, like, I don't know, it's Jyn Erso's story,
Yeah.
but we have gotten no more time with her. We haven't seen her. She wasn't mentioned in the 24 episodes. We got a little bit of Saw Gerrera. We got all these amazing characters that we got really attached to. And I don't know about you guys, but like on that beach on Scarif when they hold each other, at first I was like, oh, poor Jin, but now I'm like, that Andor now, Cassian, like screaming
Yeah.
and crying for him. So how does your first rewatch of Rogue One after 24 episodes of Andor, how does that change?
Oh, it changes drastically. Well, before season 2 released, when we were getting Star Wars Celebration and interviews where Diego Luna was saying, "Oh, season 2 is going to change the way you watch Rogue One," I was like, "How? Like that doesn't even make sense. How is that even possible?" And then it did it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is insane!" And it changed the movie so much. But to your question of who's sort of the main character of Rogue One, I still think it's Jyn Erso. I think Cassian's still a main lead, but he's not the main character.
Yeah.
His getting his own show, even though it's called Andor, he's not. He's the main character. He's a main character, but it's an ensemble cast. Like there's a lot of main characters in Andor, so pretty much for it's the perfect example of the rebellion. It's not just one guy. Now it kind of becomes one guy when Luke shows up, but it's not one guy who helps create it, and that's what we see throughout Andor, and that's what we see in Rogue One. So I'd still argue that Andor gets his 24 episodes and Jin still gets the movie, but Cassian's role is undoubtedly more significant after you've watched
Massively.
the 2 seasons of the show.
Is it hard for you guys to watch him kind of? We've seen what he's capable of, right? We know what he's capable of. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Is it hard for you guys to watch him take second fiddle to Jin in this now? Like when they make these decisions, he's like, here, you do it. And you're like, no, you do it. You're the chosen one, kind of given,
Honestly, no, because when you watch Rogue One, it still, maybe it's because Tony Gilroy is a genius, but it still works that it's leading to Jyn Erso being the key because her dad. Like that's really the only reason she's the main character is because of her dad is the one who puts the flaw in the Death Star. So Cassian's just there with all the stuff he knows prior now, doing this to help the rebellion. Like that's his one goal is just to help the rebellion take down the Empire. So I don't see it, and I'm trying to think of any scenes and I can't think of any where he's getting like one upped by Jin. I think of when they go to Edu, is it? The base where Jin's dad is, where he dies. Actually, spoiler alert.
yeah.
Yeah, and when Cassian leaves to go kill him with the sniper, and then Jin goes to the platform and all that stuff, like Cassian's still the one in charge there. And it's not really like, even though Jin is the main character, she's not in charge, and it's not like they're stepping on each other's toes or anything like that. It's really done very well, and then Andor after the fact is done really well to keep that intact, so that Rogue One doesn't feel like it should be Cassian's story when it's not.
What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I'm with Mark. I still think I still feel like Jyn Erso's the main character because one thing, and again, it's been mentioned, Andor significantly deepened Rogue One. It added so much flavor to Cassian's character. Loads of it. We understand now why he became the person he is. His trauma from Ferrex, all his imprisonment. We also get a good sight into the rebellion. It isn't monolithic. It's quite messy.
Oh yeah.
Because I think a lot of people had that idea that it was quite well run, organised, and we know it's not the case at all. It adds more terror to the Empire as well, definitely. Not saying that they came across as a joke in the originals, but the stormtroopers couldn't hit squat anyway. But
Yeah.
I think it added a bit more terror to the Empire that was needed. But yeah, I'm with Mark on that. I think Jyn Erso for me still the main character in
Yeah.
it, but you definitely get you are now, like we said earlier, you are now attached to Cassian a lot more, which is proven by Jimmy's outcry with the ending.
Yeah, it was just for me it was weird because I've been a big fan of Jyn Erso. I love it. I always laugh when people say that there's no strong female characters. I'm like, that's all we ever get are these amazing female characters that like I'm like, what are you talking about? And
Mm, mm,
really rooting for her and stuff like that. But I just felt for me having spent that much time with all these characters and like a lot of them, we don't even make it to the movie. It was weird because it is still Jin's story,
yep.
but so much more about Cassie, and you're just kind of like, man, like I don't know if I was waiting for something different to happen in the movie on my my 15th viewing or whatever, but it was kind of it. Not that it didn't. I don't think it took anything away from the movie. It probably made it better, a lot more emotional. But it was weird in that aspect where it was just like so much more about a character who's not necessarily a side character, but he's not the lead, like we've said, and it's just kind of almost unbalanced it a little bit for me. I
Mm,
mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Like I said, I still enjoy the movie. It's still one of my favorites, but I do feel like it kind of changed a little bit with with all that background and all that time, with Cassian. So just
that's
for me, I
that's
guess.
that's why though I think Star Wars is such a success because again you can relate it to any of the films, not so much TV shows now, but any of the films. Like you could sort of argue like who's the main character in the originals? Probably say Luke to a degree, but I
Yeah.
think there's enough background story and time with other characters, Han Solo, Leia, Chewbacca, etc., that people, you can also see it from their point of view. That it could be Star Wars could be from Princess Leia's point of view
Yeah.
Yeah,
completely. Even Solo, one day he's there in Tatooine having a drink, and a job has just come in. Now we're following Solo's journey. You could look at
Yeah.
it like that.
yeah, that's true. Um, are there any characters that you wish could be taken from Andor seasons 1 or 2 and kind of getting a bigger push into Rogue One? Like, is there anyone that could have made it? I mean, I know the stories are a little bit different because I mean, you know, we had the build up to Rogue One, but is there any characters you feel like that could have kind of crossed over and been part of that crew? Could have been with
I think a good little Easter egg would have been Dedra.
where would they have put her though?
Whether she's back with the Empire, whether it's on toilet duty, or she's completely U-turned and she's joined the rebellion.
I would think like Val,
Oh,
just
yes.
just because like she is obviously related
Yeah.
to Mon Mothma, but she could be like a character that would just kind of be in the backgrounds on Yavin, and just
Yeah.
she herself is sort of like Cassian, where they're both the only survivors of Aldani. If there was a crew going to be Rogue One and leave Yavin to go on a secret mission, I feel like she'd be a part of that. Like I feel
Yeah.
like she'd fit in very well to the story.
Yeah,
That's a great choice. I love that one. That's a wicked choice. Val's a great choice.
yeah, that was a good one. I think what is it, Tony? I think Tony Gilroy just said the same thing not too long ago about it. That's kind of where I stole the question. It was something on social media that I saw, like what characters could have like made the jump over
Yeah.
that we would want to see, because they did introduce a lot of great characters in Andor. Are there any, coming from this, and we can even just a little bonus stuff, but is there any story that you want from Andor season 2? Like, you kind of had to like leapfrog Rogue One, and what stories do we want? The big one I've seen people talk about, Ryan Gosling is going to be the baby of. I'm like, folks, Ryan Gosling doesn't look anything like Bix or Cassian, so
No.
I don't think unless space Gen X works differently. I don't think he's
Yeah.
a kid, but like, is there any story that you want to see fleshed out more, or something? Do we want to see Andor's kid coming in to, being an X-wing pilot or something? Or is it just
Well, as much as we talked about earlier how interconnected the Star Wars story is and how things can all over the place 50 years before can connect to 50 years later, I think it shouldn't. Like
Yeah.
Cassian's kid, as much as people want to be like, oh, you could make him Poe Dameron, you could make him Ryan Gosling or whatever. Uh, it it makes Star Wars feel small. I've had that
Mhm.
been brought up all
Mm,
the time.
yeah.
Star Wars is this massive thing. You get new planets pretty much in every new project. Every new movie has new planets. Every new show has new planets.
Yeah.
Andor is the perfect example of that. Like all these planets are new. Ferric, Saldani, Narkina 5, like all of them. So it should feel like a massive galaxy and not everything needs to be connected. So Bix, the child, being on Mina Rao, it should probably stay that way. Now,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
could make the argument that Bix was going to come back to the rebellion after, maybe if the kid grew up and then she comes back to join the fight. But at that point, we assume that the Empire is probably gone, thanks to Cassian. So maybe getting a little bit of Bix somewhere in like the New Republic would be kind of cool, but I
Mm.
seriously doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think same as Mike. Andor's perfect in my
Yeah.
honest opinion. Leave it where it is. It's absolutely fine. But then a side of me would like to have seen some, I don't know, some recognition to those that went above and beyond with the rebellion. Whether it was someone turning up to Bix and being like, "Yeah, Cassian's died, but this is a citation. This is a commendation he's got." Because
Yeah.
Luke, Han, they all got their medals. Chewbacca
That's,
eventually got his.
yeah,
It's just little things.
I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that aspect of it. Those
Yeah,
three getting those two getting medals, and then like, you think about all those people that paved
yeah.
that path for those
Yeah.
guys to take that
And
one
it's
shot.
like I get it, and I completely get it. I know it's just a film, but again, I think it just add a bit more. I want to say realism, but a bit more depth to things. It's not just these people have died for nothing. Like, we've moved on. Like you look at the Last Jedi now, where nobody was coming to help them. More people have died. Yet there's still no mention of the heroes of Endor or the heroes of Hoth, the people that stayed behind while the ships left. There's
Yeah.
not what mention of anyone. Like,
Yeah.
but
Well, we're
yeah,
talking. No, go ahead.
no, that's it, Mike.
Oh,
Just yeah,
yeah. No. So we're talking about how Rogue One got made so much better from Andor, but so did A New Hope. Like you
yeah,
mentioned that medal ceremony at the end. Now you watch that and you're like, yeah, Luke, Han, they deserve medals. Great. But there's so many people who sacrificed so much to get here, and now you feel that when you're watching A New Hope 10 years ago without Rogue One, you don't feel any of that. You still feel great because you just watched A New Hope, but now you have the feeling of Luthen built this, Cassian built this, Mon Mothma built this. All these characters built this up, and you feel that so much more. So yeah, it made Rogue One a lot better too, but it also
yeah.
made the original trilogy better too, especially that throne room scene.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine if someone had turned around to Mon Mothma, when she goes, many Boffins had died to bring you this information, and someone turned around to her and goes, right, name me one. Uh, uh,
Oh man.
Yeah,
So I got one last question for you guys, and then whatever you have left. But does this storytelling work anywhere else? Like, you take this character Cassian from a great movie, and you are able to tell this story of revolution. And I do think that, given the history of our planet, like it's an easy. You could. I always say you could take this story and you could put it in a. You could put it in any. You could put it in Marvel. You could put it in DC. You could do whatever
yeah,
you wanted with it. It's going to be a rock star. We got lucky. It's in
yeah,
Star Wars. Is there some character from, like, let's say the sequels, right, that we could get pulled aside and we see their journey through the three movies, but we get more time with them, or we get to see like maybe like the crew that's the pilots and things like that we don't get to really see. Can this work again, do you think? I mean, is it possible that this kind of storytelling where you take aside, I say side character, you know what I mean though,
yeah.
yeah.
someone who's not the main character, you don't get Ray, you don't get Finn, and you don't get Poe, but you get other people. can they make a bigger impact on the trilogy? I guess.
No, absolutely. I think you can. 100% you can. And we kind of touched upon this before, but they're doing it right now with the sequels. They're filling all these holes in. You can do that with a specific character. Now it's hard to do because it still has to make sense. Cassian still has to end up where he ends up in Rogue One. Now they do it so well in Andor where the last scene is him going to the first scene of Rogue One, which is really, really cool with the information of Galen Erso and all that stuff. But in doing that's really, really hard to do.
Mm.
But I do think that you could do that with a specific character. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I do think it can be done again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one character I think it'd definitely work with, and it'd be Zora Bliss from the sequels.
Oh, dang.
Interesting.
I think
That
you'd
actually
get a
would be really good.
backstory.
Yeah, because you would bring in Poe Dameron a little bit,
Yeah.
and it would give you sort of that almost underworldy type thing in the sequels.
And as well, if we're going from the prequels, it's quite hard to choose, but there's one character in the whole of Star Wars that it definitely needs to happen. We have to have a Palpatine.
Yeah, young Palpatine.
Yeah,
Have to have that.
they just need to make that dang book into a movie. Plagueis.
True.
and-
Well, if you're doing the same thing that Andor did, and you're almost leading in directly to the Phantom Menace, then you'd have to have it be like a young Palpatine, where there'd be time jumps like Andor, young Palpatine getting recruited by Plagueis, killing his family, all that, and then him eventually training Maul as sort of an acolyte,
Yeah.
and then killing Plagueis. But that would be alongside with the movies, so yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
Can you imagine if they did it though, exactly like that, Mike, but all the movies? So we're seeing it from original as well. You know, he's getting a call from Vader. I've got some bad news. Death Star 1's been blown up. Could you imagine that? And then Rise of Skywalker, it's like, boom, I'm back. Right, this is what happened. Thanks for whoever sorted me out the clones. And, Can you imagine that?
A young Palpatine show could do a lot for the sequel trilogy.
For everything.
For how he comes back and all that stuff. Yeah, because he's learning it from Plagueis. And you're like, oh, wait, that's clearly a reference to what happens later down the line.
Yeah.
He teaches him about Exegol or something crazy like that. Like, it'll be wild.
And it was done from his point of view. So obviously, like
Yeah.
we've read the book, Darth Plagueis, but then they put a bit more into it, and they do it so well that you start thinking, you know what? Actually, I don't like the Jedi. I don't like the fact that there's no empire, there's no rules. It's the galaxy's a mess. I can see why we needed this.
That'd be pretty awesome.
That would be twisted, man. If we're sitting there rooting for old Papa Palps towards the end, no, Luke Skywalker's the bad guy. Be like Barney in How I Met Your Mother when it comes to the Karate Kid. Kind of like complete reversal. But oh man, any final thoughts on Andor's impact on Rogue One? Andor's impact on Star Wars? Like, what are you guys thinking? Then we'll wrap this up.
Well, actually, before we even touch on that, this popped into my head while you were saying that. If you guys watch Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Breaking Bad, you're rooting for Walter White the entire time. He's the bad guy.
Yeah. I have this conversation all the time with people about this.
Yeah. So if they did that with Palpatine, and you're like, I'm rooting for this guy, but he's the bad guy the whole time. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be.
That'd be great. But going to answer your question now, I wanted to touch on a little bit of the specifics that Rogue One gets changed, or not changed, but gets better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things when I watched Rogue One immediately after watching Andor season 2 was the opening scene for Cassian. So not the opening of the movie because that's like young Jyn or so, but opening scene for Cassian. He's walking down the alley to talk to Tivik, and he's telling him, "Oh, I got to get back. You're late or whatever." And immediately when you hear, "Oh, he's late," you're like, well, why was he late? And now you know why he was late. He was kept a prisoner on Yavin 4, on his own rebel base. Crazy. But then he's talking about Galen Erso, and he says Erso, and he goes, Galen Erso? Like, he knows. And then he's talking about this weapon, and Cassian's heard about the weapon, but he doesn't know what it is. And he goes, what's the weapon? What's the weapon? And he goes, it's a planet killer. That hits you like a brick wall now. Before it was like, okay, we know what the Death Star is. That's cool. But now it's like, Cassian's been trying to figure that out for 5 episodes or something like that, right before that. And he helped build the thing. Like this, it's so much crazier. Now, having seen the first 2 seasons of Andor, than having just watched Rogue One for the first time. Like now it hits you like a crazy brick wall where you're like, holy crap, he built this thing or helped build this thing.
Yeah.
And now he's finally figured it out, or he's been told. So that's one big thing. The other big one that I really, really love is later on in the film where they are just leaving Jeddah. So Jeddah gets blown up and Saw dies, but Jin watches the message from her dad. And then she gets onto the ship and she's telling them about this message and how there's a flaw in the Death Star, Project Stardust, blah, blah, blah. And Cassian goes, "You have the message, right?" And she's like, "Nope." And he's like, "Well, you're screwed." And it's an exact callback to when he goes to them and says, "Luthen told me this, this, and this." And they go, "Well, Luthen was crazy and now he's dead." So he has no evidence. He has no proof. So they just don't believe him. And that scene in the finale, I think, or in second to last episode, whenever it happens in season 2, is so good because it's just him. And as the audience, you know that he's right, but nobody's listening. Shout out to season 1. Nobody's listening. And honestly, that's crazy. I never even thought of that before. The Empire's not listening. The Rebellion's not listening either. But they won't listen because he doesn't have the facts. And then when it goes to Rogue One and she doesn't have the hologram, he's like, "You're screwed." This is like it's just so good. Yeah. It's just genius writing. That's what it is.
I think another thing too is when they get in that argument, he's talking about how long he's been in the fight.
Yeah.
And now we've seen it. Like
now you understand more,
he's earned like, I have been doing this from the beginning, and I think that really kind of drives that whole fight, not fight scene, the argument between those two kind of gives him more ground to stand on, because now we're like, he has. We just watched it, like we've just seen everything and then we know everything he sacrificed: his sister, his mother, his father, adopted, whatever, his life. I mean, he's as much as Luthen has given up everything, Cassian in the end does too. So it's kind of like, dang, it's huge.
And with a story like Star Wars, which is sort of a story about Jedi and Sith and masters and apprentices, it's almost like without the Sith and the Force, or without the Jedi and the Force, you have this master and apprentice, this Luthen and Andor sort of story where, I guess you could say Luthen and Clea too, but Luthen and Andor, the whole gist of season 1 is him trying to get away from the Empire by trying to work for Luthen, trying to get in contact with Luthen. So he has this weird father-son relationship that we see all throughout Star Wars, or master and apprentice relationship, which we see all throughout Star Wars, with Luthen. And that whole speech that Luthen makes in season 1 about giving up everything, that's really played out when you see Bix and the child on Mina Rao, because he gave up everything to make this happen. He gave up everything, and that's what Luthen taught him to do. So it really takes a character that never existed before, like Luthen, and makes him one of the most important pieces to the rebellion, but also gives Cassian that mentor and the reason why he is the way that he is when we see him in Rogue One.
Yeah.
So
that's the only time where I think I really wished we had gotten to season 3 and to season 4, where we could have seen more of that molding by Luthen and just kind of drop. But it's there. I do think we're going to get some of that in the books, that Mask, the Reign of the Empire books.
Yep.
I do think that Luthen's going to. I don't know how they do it without bringing Luthen into that story, but I think we'll get some of it there. But it would have been cool to see it just kind of driving, like you said, like kind of driving Andor, Cassian, into that person that he's going to be, because he's been molded by a lot of people, and I think that's another great thing about this story too, is, Marva did it for him and everything like that. And I just, awesome. It blows my mind that we have these 2 seasons of Andor from Rogue One, and it all kind of plays together. Like, given the trilogy, the sequel trilogy, I never thought we'd get something that connects this well and is this impactful in Star Wars. And I hope that this sets the tone moving forward with the stuff that
they could do this with Kenobi, mate, and New Hope.
They could do it with anything. I mean, as long as they get the right people in place.
Well, it's as great as it is, because it's awesome. It's not something that's almost new to Star Wars, because you have the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars, it makes better Revenge of the Sith, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It makes it so much better for so many people who are like, oh, Anakin's fall was so fast. It also gives you a whole nother perspective of Order 66 with Rex and Ahsoka. It gives you more Maul. It gives you all this other stuff. So it's been done before. It's happened again. The Clone Wars is incredible, as many people will attest. So is Andor. So it's bound to happen again. Like you asked earlier, Jimmy, it's gonna happen again with we don't know what. Maybe it's the Maul Shadow Lord series
Oh
next
yeah, that's
year.
gonna be great.
I think
How
so.
that could lead right into Solo or lead right into where he is in Rebels. Because when we see him in Rebels, he's stranded on Malachor 5. He's like an old, decrepit, old man looking type character, but that's not the guy we saw in Solo. So what happened there? We don't know. So maybe that's the next Andor type story. But yeah,
I'm
I
down
mean,
for that.
me too.
Yeah, that'd be great. I
I
cannot
love
wait.
Maul.
Cannot wait for that. I do think you're right though. I do think that the Shadow Lord will. I think it's going to fill in some gaps for us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you got Filoni telling these stories, and man, can't wait. So, but
What would really be cool would be because Maul in season 7 of Clone Wars is so he knows Palpatine's plan because he was Palpatine's
Yeah.
apprentice. So he knows that Anakin's been groomed. He knows all that stuff. He's telling Ahsoka this stuff. It would be really cool to see Maul's obsession with Palpatine still be there throughout the course of Shadow Lord.
yeah,
And maybe he catches on to the plan, and maybe he just had some knowledge prior of the plan for like Project Necromancer or Mount Tantus, which we see in the Bad Batch. He knows about that maybe, or he knows the idea of that, or maybe even Exegol, he knows the idea of that. Like Maul's kind of the key to discovering Palpatine's plan. Just nobody's listening again.
yeah. You're definitely right. Like that would make sense too. That way, he knows it. The audience gets to learn it. No one's going to listen to Maul.
Yep.
Like nobody. Like no one's going to
Mm.
listen to him. Everyone's going to think he's, and that would make that would be the perfect place to drop that information, and it never gets out. Like
Yeah.
but it satisfies us as fans and viewers. Like, oh
Well,
dang,
no, absolutely. When you get to Maul in Rebels, he's obsessed,
Mhm.
absolutely obsessed with killing Obi-Wan, which he was during the Clone Wars, but then he goes away from that. He's like, nah, I'm good. Don't need Kenobi anymore. What if he sees something or knows something or finds out about something that makes him that obsessed again? Because when we see him on Malachor 5, he's there to use that
Yeah.
Kyber or the holocron to activate the weapon that's on Malachor 5. He's trying to get this whatever sort of weapon this is to destroy somebody. The only likely option is Palpatine. So something happens between Solo and Rebels, which we're going to see in Maul Shadow Lord, which makes him go so crazy that he goes to Malachor 5 just to try and find a way to either kill Palpatine or stop the Empire or whatever that may be. So
I've
that's
always
going to be
wondered
really,
that.
really cool.
I've always wondered why he never grasped Palpatine into the Jedi.
Or why didn't he, if he really hated Palpatine that much, why didn't he take his whole criminal underworld that he has to go take him down? Now, maybe he does, and maybe he loses miserably, like we see Asajj
Gonna
Ventress try
say,
to
yeah.
kill.
He
Yeah,
got
Dooku.
spanked pretty hard. Him and Savage did, didn't they, in Clone Wars?
True. So maybe he's trying to train Darth Talon to go take down Palpatine. Maybe he's trying to train Kira to go take down Palpatine. I don't really know.
I think that's a good shout.
It would be
Yeah.
pretty. It
Talon.
would be pretty cool. Yeah,
Very cool. All right. Yes, that's awesome. I'm all fired up now.
I know. Yeah, me too.
Next week's topic sorted.
Yeah.
Kidding. So, oh man. Well, Mike, I want to say thank you so much for coming back, jumping on here with us, and
Of course.
I also want to say, like, and I've said a lot, when I first got back into Star Wars, I had taken the hiatus, and this was 10, 12 years ago. I'm getting, I don't want to say names of people out there, but I was getting taken down the wrong path, right? I was real negative, and I was pretty off. I tell a story about the prequels and my hate towards the prequels, and then you find the right people, Force Center podcast with their positivity and things like that. And I'm just glad that you're out there doing what you do. For people who are coming into it, I've even told my nephew about you. I'm like, you got to check out this guy. He's a 12-year-old kid who loves Star Wars. He needs to kind of be steered that way a little bit sometimes too. So I just want to say thank you for doing everything you're doing and the community that you've built, and taking time for us. Like I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate just what you're doing for Star Wars, because we need more of it, man.
Well, that's very, very generous. I appreciate that quite a bit. No, absolutely. Anytime I come on this and talk Star Wars, whatever you guys want. But I appreciate the very kind words. You guys are doing the exact same thing over here. It's something that was missing in the Star Wars fandom, which seems like
Yeah.
it's come back around.
Mhm.
Like it swayed one way to a very negative place for a few years, and it's coming back around. But there's a lot more positive Star Wars channels popping up everywhere, so it's really nice to see. But yeah, like you just said, there was a time where it was even myself was going down a dark path, pretty much, falling to the dark side in the Star Wars fandom, where everybody's talking negative, everybody's talking trashing on one another, and
Yeah.
it becomes contagious, and then you feel like you should be crapping on other people, and it just becomes a horrible thing. But that's the reason I made the channel. I'm sure that's the same reason you guys made the channel. Like we just want to spread the positivity and create a place where people can talk about Star Wars in a more positive light, because there is a lot of places online where you'll get literally just told horrible things just because of your opinion on a Star Wars. Like, what are we even talking about here? But yeah, I could not appreciate you guys more for having me on. This was awesome. Great way to come back from vacation is talking some Star Wars. So
Oh yeah.
the lid has come off, and now I'm going to just start talking Star Wars forever.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jack, you got anything else?
No, again, just echo what Jimmy said to you, Mike, as well. You've always been a supporter and a friend of ours. Just appreciate your time, buddy.
All right.
course.
Well, for all of us, welcome back, Mike. We're excited to see your energy on Tuesday. Is probably going to be insane with a
Yeah.
week off. So, and for all of us, we have spoken. We'll see you guys next week.
Only now, at the end, do you understand?
Close your eyes.